Welcome to the book of Shmuel, chapter 1. This week we trace some of the background for the first perek back to the story of Pilegesh by noting the unusual term miyamim, yamima. In sefer shoftim we come to identify the roots of the kingship of Shaul as related to Yavesh gilead, and we understand how unlikely a king from Shevet Binyamin really would be. Thanks for joining, and please consider sharing this podcast with others.
Okay, so we're going to pick up where we left off last time in Shmuel, part Aleph, Pasuk Gimel. One of my teachers, I'll consider him my teacher, even though I've only met him a few times. I've learned a lot from him, is Rabbi Shaul, and he makes the very astute comment that no matter how slowly you read Tanakh, you must learn to read even slower. And I wholeheartedly agree with that comment. But after we read Pasuk Gimel very slowly, we're then going to do the exact opposite of what he recommends and read through the rest of the perek rather quickly, because I'm hoping it will help us have a more holistic picture of what the perek is about and some of the patterns or the ideas that the totality of the perek brings out, rather than some of the minutiae. Okay, so for context of Pasuk Gimel, we're going to need to go back to sefer shoftim. Which is why I hope I put out some Tanakhs. That's the Robert Alter translation, which is a very good translation. So, just to recap us, in Pasuk Gimel, we have the wife of Chana and Pnina is Elkanah, and we learn that he is Allah ha'ish hahu me'iro miyamim yamima, and he would go up from his city miyamim yamima. So this phrase miyamim yamima, Rabbi David Silver points out, is unusual. We get it maybe 4 or 5 times in all of Tanakh, and the last time we had it is very recent in our Tanakh chronology. So 9 psukim earlier, at the very end of Sefer Shoftim, we have this same phrase, miyamim yamima. So if you're reading through, you finished Sefer Shoftim and then you started Shmuel, this would right away raise a flag in your mind, because you just saw this a couple psukim ago. What is the context where we had yamim yamima previously? It is the story of Pilegesh Begiva. Just to give us a quick recap of the story of Pilegesh Begiva, would anyone like to do this for me?
She was Binyamin.
Right. The story's with Binyamin. So there's Right. So there's a Levite man living in Har Ephraim, which is kind of where we started over here in Pasuk Aleph, and he's traveling with his Pilegesh, which is essentially a wife without a ketubah, travels to a town in Binyamin, and essentially you get a replay of the Sodom story, where the people of the town want to attack the guests, and the man leaves the Pilegesh out for the mob to have their way with her. And
she dies.
And they do so, and she ends up falling dead at the doorstep. When the man finds her in the morning, he is he's so struck by how terrible this occurrence was that he cuts her up into pieces and sends the pieces out around to the 12 shvatim to say, how can you allow something like this to happen amongst the Jewish people?
War.
Right. So then we have this big civil war.
They not a civil war.
No.
They basically decimate Binyamin.
Yeah, it's a civil war between Binyamin and everybody else. And originally Binyamin wins, and then
very little limited that he wins. He's decimated.
Correct. So Binyamin is decimated
and remains that way throughout the time.
Correct.
What was the main thing? It was just a rishus within the Shevet? What was it? Was it just that one, vice?
So it's a great question, and why did this happen to Binyamin?
Mm-hmm.
And
it was a reflection upon the tribe that they could let this happen within them.
I'm saying what had happened within Shevet Binyamin?
They were decimated.
No, I'm saying what.
Why were they so lawless as to allow something like this to happen? Is the question.
Versus Shevet God.
Right. It's a fair question. I think it might take us.
He's a wolf.
He's a wolf. It might take us a little further afield. but there was something rotten in Denmark, and it was so rotten that they literally wiped out the entire Shevet with the exception of
500 dudes.
600 men. And so then they
I feel you didn't appreciate it.
yeah. So then they have to figure out what to do with these 600 men. They want to repopulate Shevet Binyamin. They don't know how to do it because they had all made an oath. Right, they had all made a vow that no one would give their daughters to Shevet Binyamin. So if no one gives their daughters to Shevet Binyamin, then how are we supposed to repopulate Shevet Binyamin? So they came up with the we'll call it surprise shidduch dating, where
Speed shift.
well, yeah, I mean, literally surprise.
Hey, I'm gonna marry you. You're gotcha.
Right. So I will read to you. We're now in Shoftim perek Chaf Aleph, chapter 21. We'll start with verse 18. V'anachnu lo nuchal latet lahem nashim. We can't give our daughters to these Binyamin men as wives, mibnotenu. Kinishbanu b'nei Yisrael lemor arur noten ish leBinyamim. Cursed be the man who gives his daughter to Binyamin. Vayomer hine chag Hashem b'shilo miyamim yamima. And then they said there's this annual festival in Shiloh, miyamim yamima. That's our phrase. Asher mitzvona lebeit el mizracha hashemesh lemesila hala mi beit el shchema uminegev levona. We're just telling you where it is. Vayitzaveu es b'nei Binyamin lemor, and they commanded the b'nei Binyamin, saying, L'chu v'araftim b'chramim, go hide out in the vineyards. Urisim v'hinei im yetzeu b'nos Shiloh l'chul b'mecholos. If these girls go out to dance in the vineyards. Go out and grab them and invite them out on a shidduch date, and you will eventually be able to be paired up
That's not
with
how that happens. They
with
just
these girls.
took the girl and then be like, okay, you're my wife now. All right, good luck.
And
Extremely ill-advised.
right. So this is what they did. Now, this whole grabbing the girls thing is only applicable to the men who couldn't get wives from a different town. What is that town? Any takers on this? Okay.
Different town.
Yes. So they said.
Does it relate to Denmark?
Close.
Copenhagen? Yeah.
So a little earlier in the chapter, in verse 7, what are we going to do to provide wives for these leftover Binyaminites? We already promised we're not going to give any of our daughters to them as wives, right? El Hashem hamitzpah, v'nei lo ba ish el hamachane mi Yavesh gilead el hakahal. So they say, well, did anybody not join in the national war between all of the shvatim and Binyamin? Was there anyone who sat this one out and didn't participate? The Levites participated. Everybody participated with the exception of one town.
All right.
Nobody from Yavesh gilead had come to the camp, to the assembly. There was nobody who was involved in the exterminating of Binyamin from Yavesh gilead. So they go, Yavesh gilead is Ever HaYarden. So now what are they going to do? They go and exterminate Yavesh gilead. So each one sends 1,000 soldiers, so 12,000 soldiers go. As Yoshve Yavesh gilead, go and kill out the people of Yavesh gilead. Everybody. But leave every woman who has not been with a man. And so they save 400 nara besula. They save 400 virgin girls. They bring them to these B'nai Binyamin. So we've got 600 B'nai Binyamin, 400 girls. So at least 2/3 are taken care of through this whole story with Yavesh gilead. Why am I telling you?
This also seems really, really disproportionate.
Yes, absolutely. Why? So the Yavesh gilead didn't come, so we're going to exterminate Yavesh. Okay, fair.
Right.
All of that is fair, and to be saved for another time. Why am I telling you all of this information? The pasuk that we just read is there to do two things. It's to raise our antenna like I said, it's nine psukim from the end of sefer shoftim to where we got to in Shmuel is a difference of 9 psukim. So the phrase miyamim yamima is rare and is there to call your attention to this story of Pilegesh Binyamin for 2 reasons. Reason number 1 is because we need to understand that Binyamin is a pariah. Forget about when did the story of Pilegesh Binyamin happen chronologically. Conceptually, to the Jewish people, if you're going to pick a king, what is the last shevet you want to pick it from? Binyamin, right? Binyamin is like excommunicado, right? They're like chutz mimachana. They are the last ones that you would ever expect to bring all the Jewish people together under a melech, right? Usually you have the shofet. The shofet is the hero of Shevet X, and that shofet saves the Jewish people, but that does not unite the Jewish people. Shimshon did not unite the Jewish people. Yiftach did not unite the Jewish people. The job of the melech is to do that. Now, the second component over here that's really important is the Yavesh gilead component. Why is the Yavesh gilead component important? The answer is as follows. If not for Yavesh gilead, there would be no Shevet Binyamin, right? We needed the girls from Shevet Binyamin to help repopulate, the girls from Yavesh gilead to help repopulate Shevet Binyamin. Now, here's how I'm going to give you sort of a fast forward through the whole book of Shmuel, at least the first half. Here's how this narrative thread plays out in the rest of the book of Shmuel, and you'll see how amazing it is. Shaul is crowned king, but people are they've kind of bought into it, maybe yes, maybe no. Then a bad guy shows up. His name is Nachash HaAmoni, the king of the Ammonites. His name is Nachash, and he lays siege to a specific town of Jewish people by the name of Yavesh Gilead. And he tells them, give in to me, otherwise I'm going to poke out your eyes and whatever. He makes a threat to them. They say, give us like 3 days to figure this out, and if nobody else of the Jewish people comes to help us, then we'll bow to you. They raise the white flag and say, quick, somebody come help us. And Shaul musters the entire Jewish people to support knocking out Nachash HaAmoni. Post, right. So stage 1 is...
Who's there right now?
Who's where?
In
Yavesh Gilead. They've repopulated Yavesh Gilead with Yavesh Gileadites. It's a good question which
city,
they are.
Gotta populate the border.
Did Binyamin go live in Yavesh Gilead? So I have to assume so, because if the first person that Yavesh, right,
I don't know. Like, I would think that some of those wives probably had a little PTSD to go back to a place where their whole families were just like wiped out.
That's a good question. I don't know. I think it is Binyaminites. So they wave the white flag, and Shaul unites the whole Jewish people, creates a national army, and goes and wipes out Nachash and saves Yavesh Gilead. Then, so that is, I don't know, perek like 11. Then fast forward to the end of the book of Shmuel. Sorry, big spoiler alert over here. Shaul HaMelech and his 3 sons actually, but his son Yonatan for sure, are all killed by the Plishtim. Not only are they killed by the Plishtim, their bodies are taken and desecrated by the Plishtim. Right. Who saves the bodies of Shaul and his son? Not David HaMelech, the people of Yavesh Gilead. The people of Yavesh Gilead go. There would be no Shaul HaMelech were it not for Yavesh Gilead. Yeah, the Plishtim had hung the bodies up on a spike outside the city, and they desecrated the bodies, they mutilated them. The people of Yavesh Gilead steal in at night and steal the bodies back and bring them back to Jewish land. What's that? Beit Sham. What do you mean Beit Sham?
That's where they hang up Shaul.
Yes, in Plishti territory.
Which is Beit Sham.
Yeah. So the people of Yavesh Gilead are the ones who end up bringing Shaul back to the people. So that's the narrative thread that plays out through this.
They come from across the Yarden to do that.
Yeah, Yavesh Gilead is across the Yarden.
Okay. Yeah, okay.
Yeah, Yavesh Gilead is Evar Yarden.
But they're the only ones who do that.
Yes, they're the only ones who extend themselves to go save Shaul's retrieve Shaul and Yonatan's body. Later, there's the story with David where he ends up taking the bodies because they didn't have a proper national burial, and they bury either the bodies or the bones, whatever it might be. We'll get to that in Shmuel Bet. But that is to give you a very broad picture from the span of 2 words, right? We saw the words yamim, yamima. It brought us back
and they're
to...
rewarded for that also.
Yes, the people of Yavesh Gilead are rewarded for that. But all of that is unpacked from the 2 words that we have here in Pasuk Gimel of Shmuel Aleph, perek Aleph, miyamim, yamima.
Who gave the orders to decimate Yavesh gilead?
So it seems like there was no head. Actually, it's an important point. I think it's perek Yud. The beginning of the whole story, Pilegesh Begiva, is exactly what you're drawing attention to.
There were heads. There were absolutely heads. Each tribe had their own.
Right, but there was no
There was no national.
correct.
One,
The beginning of the story,
which is the whole concept of the Malchus. The Malchus is comes along and you take these 12 independent tribes who are being governed independently with their own national needs, and comes along and puts them under one umbrella.
exactly right.
And it's not real. And while Shaul does some of this, it's not really done until David comes from Hebron and brings it up to Jerusalem.
All correct, absolutely. The beginning of the Pilegesh Begiva story starts with the following phrase: "Vayehi bayamim hahem umelech ein b'Yisrael, vayi ish Levi gar b'Yarkasei." Blah 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 blah. So the prelude, the subtext and context of the story Pilegesh Begiva is there's no king, and that's why this can happen. And just as David said very rightly, when we get to Shmuel, the job is to create a king so that these kinds of things can't happen, and instead there's unity among the nation. Okay, so that takes us through the third pasuk in the perek. What I'd like to spend the next amount of time doing is going through the rest of the perek rather quickly so that we can get to hopefully a more macro concept that I think is the message of perek Aleph, or at least one of the messages of perek Aleph. Would someone like to read, or would you guys like me to read? Any volunteers? Okay. Pasuk Dalet says as follows: Vayhi Hayom, and it was that very day. Vayizbach Elkanah v'natan lepnina ishto ulcho baneha ubnoteha manot. So Elkanah, we know Elkanah. He's the guy that goes always up to Shiloh. So he brings his korban in the Mishkan in Shiloh, and then he comes back to divvy up the portions to his family. So he gives them to Penina, his wife, and to all of her children. Ulachana yitain mana achat apayim ki et Chana ahev va'Adonai sagar rachma. So he comes back and gives Penina first, and then he gives Chana, but he gives her apayim, which is an interesting phrase.
Which Haftorah is this?
This is Rosh Hashanah. Yeah, this might sound familiar. We just did this like a couple weeks ago. Yes. That's Vayhi Hayom is code. Chazal say that's code for Rosh Hashanah. So he comes back and he gives a pie. Maybe he gives it to her face to face, or he gives her a double portion, whatever it is. Face? No, a pie face to face. He gave it to her with a. Or
sorry, I didn't quite follow.
how does Alter translate a pie?
It says portions.
Okay.
Elkanah would sacrifice and give portions to Penina, his wife.
No, 5.
And to Chana he would give one double portion.
Double pime. A pime, right. So that's a pime as plural double portions. Ki Chana Ahev and Hashem made her barren. V'kisasa sarata gam ka'as ba'avur har'ima kisagar Adonai ba'ad rachma. Her rival, her tzara, who is her rival? That's Penina. She makes her miserable. And would taunt her because Hashem made her barren. Hashem closed her womb.
Why are they blaming God like two psukim in a row?
Right. That's a great question. Why is Penina doing this?
It seems to be
They say she did it l'shem shamayim.
Right.
Right.
I heard that also.
Right. So that's from Chazal that there are two that cause trouble: l'shem shamayim, the Satan, and Penina. Can you imagine being like in that list? That's a very short list.
Yeah.
It doesn't go very well for Penina in the end.
Yeah.
And
what was l'shem shamayim?
That she. Yeah, Chazal, like, really, they give you examples. They tell these stories of, Penina would say in the morning, Chana, I'm getting the kids ready and I realize I don't have a size 6 jacket. Can I borrow one of yours? Oh, you don't have any kids. I forgot. I'm so sorry. These kinds of, like, very hurtful...
like,
right.
really stick it to you.
Right. Like, oh, I'm all out of diapers. Do you have... Oh, you don't have kids. That's right.
Yeah.
Oh, I feel bad for you.
It
So did it work? I don't know.
She ends up with kids.
And what was she not doing that she
Right,
did?
she wasn't
ends
being
up
nice
in-
about it. She could have accomplished the same thing by being like, hey, if you daven to Hashem, maybe he'll open up your womb.
Yeah.
Same, you're right. Like if you daven, like this could happen. For you.
Well, let's wait. We're gonna get to Chana's song and see how she kind of gives it back to Penina. V'chein yaseh shana b'shana, and this isn't like a one-time deal. Penina did this year in and year out for many years. Midei alosav beis Adonai kain tichisena v'tivkeh v'lo tochal. So she would do this every time that Elkanah goes up to Shiloh. Her tzara would taunt her, and she would cry and she would not eat. We're going to have a lot of focus on food and eating and not eating and all of that good stuff. Vayomer la Elkanah. So
I also never understood this thing.
Vayomer la Elkanah Isha, and Elkanah, her husband, in case you didn't remember that he's her husband, he says to her, Chana, lama tivchi, why are you crying? V'lama lo tochli, and why are you not eating? V'lama yera levavecha, and why are you so sad? Hello, I know. So are these?
So right,
One second. Are these
okay.
real questions or rhetorical questions?
No, typical dense husband.
Den's husband.
Yeah.
Okay.
No idea what's going on.
Well, let's read the next part of the pasuk. Hello, anochi tovlach me'asara banim. Am I not better for? So he knows why she's not eating and crying and she's miserable because she has no kids. And he's answering in the second part of the pasuk, what do you need kids for? You have me. That's his answer.
Right, that's it.
Am I not better for you than
Right.
10 sons?
Okay, being done Lakavskos, how could he possibly think that this would make things better?
Is he another Penina in disguise? Is he doing this to?
No, but that's the thing, is that the sages
neither
don't
have I.
censure him for this. Like, there's no word about him being like a total jerk, or even a dense husband. Like, if he's the guy who basically is Mazaka the Rabbim by bringing everybody to Shiloh, I gotta feel like he's probably not a bad guy.
Just dense.
I don't even know if he's dense. I'm trying to figure out what is he trying to accomplish with
Well,
this.
okay, so maybe it's practical. Why do you need the kids? Because you need someone to take care of you in your old age. I'll take care of you in your old age. Don't worry about it. I got you. I can take care of you better than all the kids in the world.
Maybe.
I don't know if that's satisfying or not.
Well, she started to eat afterwards.
Okay. Well, not yet. We'll get to her eating. Okay, let's keep going. Vatakam chana achrei achla b'shilo v'achrei shato. So here, I don't know how Alter translates it, but we're going to have to assume that the eating and drinking that is mentioned over here is not chana, and we'll see why in a minute. So she gets up after the eating and the drinking, but she did not participate in the eating and drinking. We'll have to prove that in a second. The Eli HaKohen Yoshev al Hakisei al Mezuzat Heichal Adonai. And Eli, the Kohen, is sitting on the throne by the entranceway to the Heichal of God. Vihi, and now we're back to Chana, is Marat Nafesh. She is bitter of spirit, Vatit Palel al Adonai ubachotivche. And she prays Al Hashem. What is Al Hashem? How would you translate Al Hashem?
On God.
Okay. What does that mean?
I mean, it's translated here to God, you know. But
right,
like,
but that's usually El with an Aleph.
Right.
Okay. Maybe so.
Right. Al is on top of.
Right.
More forceful.
Forcefully. I like forcefully. Chazal see what she prays as a complaint against God. She's praying Al Hashem like in an angry way. They talk about her complaining, what is the point of me having, why do I have breasts if I have no baby to nurse, right? That's what, these are the types of phrases that Chazal use. Like, what are you doing, God? Like, I'm here, I'm davening, I want a child, like, why can't we make this happen? Vatidor neder, and she makes a vow, Vatomer, Adonai tzvaos, im ra'o tir'eh ba'ani, Amasecha u'schartani v'lo tishkach es amasecha v'nasna la'amasecha zera nashim v'nsativ l'Adonai kol yemei chayav u'mora lo ya'ale al rosho. Okay, so here's the vow that she makes. So first of all, she, Chazal tell us, is the first one to refer to Hashem as Hashem Tzvakos. So God of legions. You have legions and legions of neshamas. You can't spare one for me. Imra otir eb ani. If you want to pay attention to my suffering over here, remember me and don't forget your amatecha, your servant. And what I'm asking for over here is zera nashim. That's also a very weird phrase. The way Chazal explain it is, I want like a normal human baby. Don't give me a weirdo. Don't give me someone who is too smart. Don't give me someone who's too dumb. I want someone who's right in the middle. Just normal, average human being. Nothing special.
For that from Zera.
Zera anashim. I want a regular person.
Why Zera? That word. It's an interesting word.
Yeah, that's true.
Seed of men.
That's true. And so if you give me that, I will give it back to you. I will dedicate him to serving God. Umora lo yale al rosho. What is that?
Be a nazar.
Okay. So interesting halachic call out. Does she have the right to do this?
No.
No. So is Shmuel a nazir when he's born?
Yes, until 12. So 13.
Well, you just told me she doesn't have the right to make him a
She
nazir.
doesn't, but she is as a teenage, she can do that. But only until he becomes bar mitzvah.
Why?
Because when he's bar mitzvah, he's a man, and he's no longer.
So can a mother make a vow? Let's say he was 3 years old. A mother who has a 3-year-old child, can she make that child into a nazir?
Yeah, a 3-year-old, yes. But because she's the parent, and it's chinuch, so to speak.
Well, that's interesting.
It's a chinuch issue.
I don't know. Nazirus is a Torah halacha thing. I don't know if you can do that.
It's a chinuch kind of thing. So I think until bar mitzvah, she can do
the
that.
barber.
The second the kid's bar mitzvah is.
So does he have the halachic status of a nazir? If she makes
a tino kosher has a halachic.
I wouldn't think so.
Yeah, I wouldn't think so either.
Right. So then Shmuel wasn't a nazir when he was born. She could treat him like one, but he's not. So if Shmuel drank wine when he was 9, he didn't violate his naziris.
He violated the law. You're not allowed to drink before 21. Even in Israel.
In ancient Israel, they were a little more flexible on their drinking laws.
You don't want him to drive that horse there. It's an accident.
Okay, so it seems like she's not able to actually make him a nazir, so he would have to voluntarily maintain this part of her oath. But the idea that she's trying to get across is he's completely dedicated to God. Now, this should also remind us of sefer shoftim, because we had someone else who, even before they were born, there was an expectation that they would be a nazir. Who's that? Shimshon. Correct. But there, it wasn't the parents who decided that he was going to be a nazir. Who was it?
The angel.
Not the Navi, the Malach. Correct. The Malach.
That one probably has a little bit more solid footing.
Right.
Like if an angel of God is like, yeah, that one's a nazir, you're like, okay.
Depends which angel.
Yeah.
Gabriel, right?
No, the Malach. They asked the Malach his name, and he says, "Why do you ask me my name? It is Peli." So it either means that it's a wonder, or that's the name. The name is just for like storytelling purposes. We get a shift over here that's a little bit subtle. We're talking about Eli sitting on the kisei by Shiloh, which we're going to get a call back to him sitting in that seat a little later on, and then we get Hannah davening. There is no connective tissue. There's no pasuk that says and Hannah went to the Mishkan and daven. We get Vatakam Hannah in Shiloh. And then we get Eli sitting by the Mishkan, but we don't get right. You are filling in the blanks. You might not even realize you're doing it. Your brain wants to make a cohesive narrative, so it assumes that Hannah is at the Mishkan where Eli is, and you're right. So she is saying all these things, but she's saying them in a way that no one other than Hannah can hear them, because she's davening. So she's speaking to herself.
But this concept of davening is a unique one.
Correct. This is another thing, besides the name of Hashem that she innovates, we get like tons and tons of halachos from how Chana davens over here. V'haya ki hir bisa lispalel, and it was because she keeps on praying. She's praying a lot. Lifnei Adonai ve'eli shomer et piha, and Eli is watching her mouth. So I haven't seen anybody say this, and I don't expect to see anybody say this, but this is my raya that there is no mechitza. So she's davening.
Not macabre.
She's davening. Maybe that's a little tongue in cheek. I should also point out the Radak says that
The mechitza wasn't tall.
tall enough. Maybe Eli was very tall.
No, the
Maybe
mechitza wasn't that tall. How tall were mechitzas
Maybe
back
it
in
was
the
a glass
1950s?
mechitza.
Could be a glass mechitza. Okay, so anyway, the Eli is watching what she's saying, and he sees her moving her lips, but he doesn't hear anything coming out. And the assumption here is that prayer used to be very out loud. And if someone is coming to the Mishkan and muttering, and doesn't seem like they're praying because they're not making any sound, then there's something wrong over here. V'chanahi medaberet aliba, and Chana is speaking to her heart. Right, she's praying. Rak svaseha naos v'kola lo yishamea. Her lips move, but there is no sound. Vayachshaveha Eli l'shikora. And Eli thinks that she is drunk. Why does Eli think that she is drunk?
Because she's talking to herself.
Okay. Did Eli consult with anyone or anything to determine that she was drunk?
Blood alcohol level.
Blood alcohol level. So Chazal say that. This is the Vilna Gaon brings it down. That
didn't do the breathalyzer.
He checks the Urim V'Tumim, and you get the letters Shikora, but it depends, right? How do you read? The letters light up, but the question is, what order do you read the letters in? Is it Shikora or? Right. So is it Shikora or Kisara, like Sarah? Right. Sarah was bitter that she didn't have a child. So Hannah is.
Why would he be checking with the?
Because this is weird. He sees a woman coming.
A woman is talking to herself, and it's weird that he's going to go to the.
So we'll see throughout Shmuel. The checking with the Urim V'Tumim is like standard operating procedure. If you don't know what to do, what's that?
You always had unjumbled.
So this is what I've seen from the Vilna Gaon. I don't know that I don't know that anyone knows how exactly the Urim V'Tumim worked and the lighting up of the breastplate. It seems like either stones lit up or letters. There were enough letters to kind of spell out anything. The question is, what's the order of the letters? But okay, so she's davening, and she's davening such a great davening that we learn the halachos of davening from what she's doing. And Eli, who is like the chief religious person of the Jewish people, he's the Kohen Gadol, right? He's the top of the religious food chain. He can't recognize someone having a religious experience. That's what she's doing, and to him, this is as if she is drunk. There's something completely wrong with what she's doing because she's innovating a religious experience. She's doing something to serve God that has never been done before, and it is outside of it's out of the box. It's not the standard operating procedure that Eli's used to. You bring a korban, you daven out loud, you do X, Y, Z, and that is how you serve God. You can't just come up with your own ideas of serving God to someone who's part and parcel of the administration. That looks like craziness. It looks like shikara. Vayomer eleha, Eli, and so he doubles down on this assessment of her state. Ad matai tishtach arin. Hasiri es yenech mi'alayich. How long are you going to be drunken for? Time to sober up, right? So this is why it's important to note that she didn't eat or drink beforehand, and she's going to say exactly that. But he's completely off base in his assessment, and something to me that's a little weird about this is if he really believed that she's drunk, just have her removed. Why have a conversation?
Yeah, also, if he is indeed the spiritual leader, why is he the one who's doing this?
Okay. Yeah, right. Why
Biden isn't the one who's kicking out the drunkard?
Right. I hear that. I hear that too. Now, remember, just for the sake of irony, what did she promise was going to happen if she had a kid?
He was never going to have wine.
He was going to be a Nazir. And she's getting accused of being inebriated. And now her response, again, plays on that drinking, no drinking theme. Vatan chana vatomer lo adoni. No, my master. And here Chazal read into her sort of giving him.
to God.
Well, no, she's giving him sort of subtle rebuke. You are not the master in this situation. Not lo adoni, no my master, but no, you are not the master. Like you don't know what you're talking about. Isha kshat ruach anochi. I'm bitter of spirit. V'yayin v'shechar lo shatiti, and I didn't drink any intoxicating drink. But what am I doing? V'ashpoch, and I'm pouring out. So playing on that visual of the liquid. Es nafshi lifnei Adonai. I'm pouring out my soul before Hashem. So
See, I had read that if she Lo Adoni is she wasn't talking to him, she was speaking to God.
okay.
No God. Isha Kasha Ruach. This is
Well,
who I am.
she has to respond to Eli. Eli says something to her, so she's not responding to him.
She's not. She's responding to God.
Interesting. Okay, let's keep reading. Do we have enough time to keep going? Everyone's good?
Yeah, we're fine.
Al titain et amatcha lifnei bat bli ya'al. Don't take me for a bat bli ya'al is like a lawless or a worthless person.
Well,
This
it's
phrase.
like a daughter of unruly people.
Okay. This phrase is going to be.
Belial is without God.
With Blia.
No, they say Anshe Blial is like worthless dudes.
Right. Well, we're gonna this phrase Anshe, the Bnei Blial or Anshe Blial we're going to see comes up very soon in a different context. But what she's taking his words. You are a drunk.
Don't they also bring it with Alicia, the dude, like
yes,
the dudes who make fun of him?
The boys that come. Yeah. So. She's taking his words, you are drunk, and she's translating them. If you're calling me a drunk, that's the equivalent of calling me a bat bliyal. So don't take me for that kind of a person. Ki merov sichi v'chaasi dibarti adhena. It's because of my additional speaking and because of my anger, right? So we said before, she's davening al Hashem. So this is where Chazal are getting this idea that she's complaining to God. She's very explicit. I'm angry. I'm upset about what's happening, and I'm talking to God about it. That's why it looks, like I might be shaking my fist or doing whatever I'm doing in terms of how I appear. It's because of my emotional state. So Eli learns his lesson, which is also going to be. These are all of these things that we're pointing out, or that we're getting here, are factors in like the personality of each character that we're meeting over here. So. First, we meet Eli. We understand that he's quick to make judgments about people being good or not good. And now we're going to see that he can learn his lesson. That's going to be important for us later on, where we're going to have to see whether or not Eli can teach other people to learn their lesson. So, V'yan Eli v'yomer l'chi l'shalom. Go in peace, right? You're not supposed to say l'chi b'shalom, but l'chi l'shalom. And may God give the request that you have asked of him. This root over here, Shin Aleph Lamed, is going to come into play over and over and over again. To be Shoel and Sha'al is a very important part of the next couple chapters.
Now the question is,
what about Shual?
Does Eli have an in with God?
Does Eli have an in with God? So we'll find out in a minute.
Clearly it's answered, but does Eli's tefillos better than hers?
Right. So that's a great question. And I'm curious to hear what everyone thinks the answer to that is, because I'm not 100% sure. Meaning, she came to Shiloh, she poured out her heart before God. Let's say she never met with Eli, never got a bracha from Eli. Is she going to have a kid? Or is it? It seems that if
seems that the recording it is Eli's intervening here.
Right. Meaning, if the author of the book wants us
to tell us that Eli has to intervene, then you seem to indicate that Eli potentially is.
You read my mind. You're like two shiurim ahead. Okay.
Which is also problematic.
Why?
Because why is one person's connection to God that much better than that?
So Chazal say, "Alti bracha hedyo kalabeinecha," that even a simple person's blessing is enough to push you over the edge. So maybe that's enough for her. Vatomer timsar shivcha chen beinecha.
But that's not the way it seems to be putting it.
No, it seems like she needed his blessing. Yes. V'atelech ha'isha l'darka. So she says, awesome, thank you for letting me find favor in your eyes. V'atelech ha'isha l'darka v'tochal ufaneha lo haya la'od. So she goes back, and now, remember, she hasn't been eating because she's been so embittered by what's been happening. Now she does eat, and her face is no longer as it was before. She's no longer downcast, as they translate it over here. Remember, Elkanah would give apayim, and now her paneha has changed. V'yashkimu ba'boker. How long is this chapter?
Goes on for a long time.
Okay, fine. So then maybe we'll stop over here and pick up Mirz Hashem next week. Yasher koach.
Okay, that's it for now. I'm so glad you were able to join us on this holy quest for a better understanding of Hashem's Torah.